Good morning and thank you for joining me for this Sunday sermon from Holy Saviour Church in Hitchin. I'd like just to read to you a short passage from Mark's Gospel chapter 9, beginning at verse 30. They left that place and passed through Galilee. Jesus did not want anyone to know where they were, because he was teaching his disciples. He said to them, "The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and after 3 days he will rise." But they did not understand what he meant, and were afraid to ask him about it. They came to Capernaum. When he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the road?" But they kept quiet, because on the way they had argued about who was the greatest. Sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, "Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and the servant of all." He took a little child whom he placed among them. Taking the child in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one of these little children in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but the one who sent me." When Nelson Mandela was a student lawyer in Johannesburg, he had a friend whose name was Paul Mahabane. Mahabane was a member of the African National Congress, better known as the ANC, and he had a reputation of being a bit of a radical. One day the two of them were standing outside a post office when the local magistrate, a white man in his 60s, approached Mahabane and he asked him to go inside to buy him some stamps. Now, it was not unusual in those days for a white person to call on a black person to perform a task for them. But Paul refused, and the magistrate was deeply offended by this. And he said, "Do you know who I am?" with his face turning red with anger. And Mahabane replied, "It's not necessary to know who you are. I know what you are." And the magistrate boiled over and exclaimed, "You'll pay dearly for this," and then walked away. The white man was convinced that he was superior to Mahabane simply because he was a magistrate. And it's clear that it had become second nature to him to expect other people, especially if they were black, to serve him. We tend to define people and evaluate people in terms of the work that they do. If we learn that a person is a doctor or a barrister or an architect, our estimation of that person tends to be quite high. But if we learn that a person is just a very ordinary worker, our estimation stays very rooted on the ground. And that's not only very unfair, it's also rather absurd. There's something much more important than the job, namely the kind of human being that lies behind the job. In the gospel passage we just listened to, the mistake that the apostles made was to put the job or the position first. In their eyes, the greatest among them was the one who had the highest position. And they obviously thought that Jesus was going to set up an earthly kingdom, and so each wanted to get a top position in that kingdom. But Jesus told them that his kingdom was not about seeking honour and glory for oneself, but rather about serving others. If they were prepared to serve others, then by all means they could have a top place in his kingdom. But they would not be sitting on high chairs or soft seats. They were more likely to be down on their knees with a basin of water in one hand and a towel in the other, washing the feet of the weakest people in the community. It's not what we do, but what we are that matters. Our self-worth should not depend upon the work that we do or the work that we perhaps have done in the past. It's possible to possess an attitude of self-worth and of accomplishment regardless of what we may do for a living. There's a lot of talk in our times about the importance of good self-esteem, and that's quite right, because it's a very important basic thing. But if we want to feel proud of who we are, we've got to do things that we can feel proud of. And feelings do follow actions. What might those kinds of things be? Well, Jesus tells us what they are. They're deeds of love and of service. And he set the example himself. He gave his life in the service of others. And no one can ever go higher than that. Our hymn for today is "Guide me, O thou great Redeemer," and may God's peace go with you.